So, Tony, hi. I want to talk to you about surrender today.
Perfect.
Um, you're a great person to talk to about that. Um, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Good. I'm feeling pretty quiet. I think that's appropriate to surrender. I'm feeling like my spiritual life has taken over my life, my so-called real life. Um, and I've been talking with you about the undertow, this feeling of giving into an undertow that's pulling me deeper. It seems really perfect for the summer season. And I wanted this to be our summer season podcast episode of the Living Ideas podcast. And there's such a quiet way that I want to explore it. That's what's going on for me. Do you have anything
I
you want
do.
to? Yeah.
I've been interested in surrender lately as well. And I have to say, I don't see surrender. I used to work with a guy, I used to coach a guy who had been in the military, and he said, we can't use that word. It means something different if you're in the military. And I said, okay, cool.
Oh.
Let's find a word we could use. And I just want to say that to me, surrender is an active thing. It's a
Mm-hmm.
positive thing. It's a
Mm-hmm.
powerful thing. It's a strong thing.
Right.
I mean, it involves us acknowledging our unity with forces that are very powerful and saying that perhaps we don't want to spend a lot of time being agitated and fighting what's real and natural and going and actually going on.
Yep. And I'm very interested in people watching this video who are feeling some of this, knowing that they have somewhere to go with it.
Yeah,
So first of all, they have us, they have this video, and it can be scary to trust it, but I think they have, or we have, the undertow itself, the forces themselves. Um, there's so much fear mongering about those forces
yeah,
taking you away, even from what this idea of calling it your real life, when it feels like the most real thing possible that I'm experiencing that's carrying me. It does feel like a river carrying me. It doesn't feel like I'm drowning, except in the sense that I'm letting go of everything about my so-called real life that I can. I mean, I'm keeping up with my responsibilities. Everything seems pretty easy. I've got things systematized in a certain way. I mentioned that actually I described how I do that in a blog post that I'll put in the comments for this video in the chat, not in the chat, in the description. But once things are systematized, we don't need to use so much conscious mind for them. We can use our mammalian habit mind. And
mm,
so I'm able to take care of myself, my partner, our house. Things are not at all going to shit right now. Things are fine. My clients, my soul colleagues, I'm volunteering more time than I ever have for my community. There's something about summer energy that embraces me. I like to say that everything in summer is on the surface, everything is visible. I deal a lot in the invisible. I really welcome the invisible. And right now, these forces are invisible, but they're very palpable. And there's something about summer where I feel like it's a great big armchair and I can just lean back into it and say, okay, thank you very much. I'm just gonna relax now. There used to be an ad for, I think, sound system or headphones with a guy with headphones like this, and he was just completely absorbed. I feel like I'm tuning in and listening to these forces and this just noticing myself letting go and letting go and letting go. And at the same time, the forces are becoming almost visible. There's something palpable, like I say, and tangible. And I feel like soon it's going to show up in the external world, in the physical world. Right now, I think in our culture, we have a hard time believing in things that don't show up in the physical world. And I'm not so worried about that because everything in summer is visible and is going to be made visible. Whereas, like in the fall and in the winter, everything that's interesting is happening below the surface. There's so little that's happening on the surface if we're tuned in, and so much that's going on beneath the surface. And now is the season of fruiting. It's not even the season of flowering anymore. It's really the season of things bearing fruit. And this is the fruit that I've cultivated since the fall.
You know, what this is making me think of is there was a time about 4 years ago when I was very sick. I almost died. I was in a rehab center. I had been so sick that I couldn't walk or sit up. And I'd been in the rehab center about a week. And I was lying in bed one day and I had this feeling that something was stirring in me that I didn't know anything about. My mind didn't know it and it wasn't in control of it. It felt perhaps as if the cavalry was coming to save me. And I just thought, I don't know what this
Mm.
is, but I'm going to surrender to this. I'm just going to give into it because it was coming. I could either fight it or experience it. So I just kind of got out of the way and I started to get better and I really healed and I thought, this was a lesson. These forces these forces are always there. Our lives heal themselves. Things go wrong, of course. We can't stop all the basic stuff from going on, but we can get in alignment with what life is really doing. And there's an enormous beauty to that.
And you're more healed than you have been in a long time. I also
But
want to say that to people listening. Like the
yeah,
thing, I mean, I can't imagine you having actually chosen the path of resistance at that moment.
yeah,
Like you were sick as a dog. You could that, and I think sometimes what will happen is what really needs our attention will come to us when we're vulnerable. And
yes,
I've been noticing myself the phrase, why fight vulnerability? Why do I fight vulnerability so much? What use has this armor? Or maybe the armor has been useful to me. Let's say that it's been useful. And now I'm really ready to lay it down and to find out, like it feels like the fruit is right underneath the armor. And if I'll take it off, like on this tree, and I will see my own, the fruit that I'm creating and that's in my life, creating in the container of my life. Yeah, I think that really happened to you. I feel like you've really blossomed.
and what's frightening us is also under the armor, and all we're doing is trapping it
Ooh,
in.
that's nice. Yes.
And so when we take that armor off, we're not talking about strange woo-woo ideas here. This is very practical stuff.
Mm,
It's like, yes, and
mm,
I'm doing really, really well. And I'm learning more and more to listen to those forces, those natural forces that I'm a part of. Um, I'm learning, I think more than anything, I think what you learn when you surrender is you learn to have more respect and compassion for yourself.
definitely. Definitely. Including for that fear that you were really wise to bring up just now. What else is under the armor? There's some things crawling around under there. And they're scary because when you take
They
off the
are.
armor, you have to kind of see them. And I think if we're able to take off the armor, we can see them. There are times we shouldn't take off the armor,
Yeah.
right? If we're under attack, if a lot of people in our lives are difficult, I feel like we're manifesting that. But until we stop, we shouldn't just make ourselves vulnerable, right? To hurtful people or anything hurtful. It's a
My
harsh
armor,
world, but yeah,
yes,
no, we've got
yes.
it. When we can take off the armor, like you did when you were sick, we do. We can, and we can also just sort of choose to lay it down, which is what I feel like I'm doing. Like, oh, I could
Yeah.
read this book, or I could sit and focus on taking off that armor and seeing what's underneath. Sorry, you were going to say something.
Yeah, I think that taking off the armor doesn't mean that we're unprotected. We were fooling ourselves. Our armor
Mm,
is made up of our misunderstandings and our confusions and our fear and our anxiety. Um, we are much more able to take care of ourselves when we unite with the forces of nature that are very healing. And I mean, the forces of nature are scary sometimes too.
Mhm.
Uh,
What keeps us strong when we surrender, Tony?
what
I feel
keeps
like
us
I'm asking that question for everyone watching this, including me.
what keeps us strong is the presence of the forces of nature. If you want to put it in a different way, in a way that I sometimes think, this is what the great goddess has always stood for.
Mm.
She is the forces of nature.
Or we
And
can say the forces of life, but we can feel those.
yeah,
Sometimes I think what makes us so uncomfortable is that we can feel them.
I agree.
We surround ourselves with distraction, and then sometimes the real peeks through.
I think what we discover when we surrender is that we are more courageous than we realized, that we're stronger than we realized, and that we understand more than we realized. The other thing is with the armor off, we can reach out to other people
Mm.
and we can participate in nature in a much more rewarding way.
I'm also noticing that I can give into my softness. I am really strong. I tend to be really armored and general, and I tend to be really strong and have fabulous boundaries. And it's not that I don't have good boundaries now, but I'm sort of surrendering to my own softness. I'm surrendering to my own tenderness. And I feel like, again, like it's kind of like the armchair of summer, the energy. It's like, oh, I can trust that actually. I can trust myself to navigate the world without such a great barrier between me and the world.
Yeah, you know, it reminds me of that wonderful line of Lily Tomlin's, maybe if we tried softer rather than harder, we'd get more done.
I
And I
love
mean,
that. That's
softness
right.
is not weakness. Those That's a big confusion to assume those things. Softness has to do with awareness, with allowing ourselves to be comfortable in this world. We can do a lot more when we allow ourselves to be natural and comfortable in the world that we're living in.
There's some opening now that's available, and I want to pursue it. I'm going to pursue it. When, just what you said, this opening, what's available. I'm like, yes, I'll have some of that, please. Thank you. That's really nice. And I feel like there's something really special about the summer energies that have just started that are going to continue. And it's like a wave I can ride and through harvest season and then into the fall. And in the fall, I'll know what to do. In the fall, I will want to give everything up again and let it all be sort of be cleansed and
Yeah,
learn this, see what the new structure is that's coming in. But I don't need to worry about that. There's a lot of trust right now.
no, no.
Mm.
Well, I think that's the other thing. I think armor is often built on our worries. And as the wonderful Buddhist teacher Sherry Huber once said, worry is not preparation. It's not getting us a thing.
That's a wonderful thing. Who
Isn't
am
it?
I without my worries, Tony?
Yeah.
Who am I
Yeah.
without that armor of my worries? Am I okay not to worry? It's actually like sometimes when we do get free, it's suddenly like, wait, is this safe? We get free a little bit more than we were. It's like, I'm missing something that's been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
And then I think, oh, hallelujah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.